Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I like big books, and I cannot lie. For quite some time, I've been considering doing a video tour of my library, including my big books. Then last week, a tag came along. This tag was originally created by Mayberry Books, and it was also done by Michael K. Vaughan. And I decided that I needed to show my big books. Now, my problem is that I have way more than 10 big books. So I've had to do a little distilling down and excluding books. I am only going to include novels that are greater than 1,000 pages long. So the collected work of Shakespeare is out. The Library of America omnibuses are out. And other compilations, such as the Robert Angstrom books. This is a collection of 4 novels. It is 1,500 pages long, so absolutely would count as a big book. But it is not a single novel more than 1,000 pages long. I'm also going to include an honorable mention. My honorable mention is The First Man in Rome by Colleen McCullough. My hardcover edition is just under 900 pages long, but I'm including it because depending on the edition that you have, it can get over 1,000 pages long. And I just wanted to include this. There are 7 books in this series. I have read the first 4, and they are a great series of Roman history. So the first book that I have, counting in at 1,005 pages. At number 23 is Robert Coover, The Brunist Day of Wrath. And this is a sequel to his novel, The Origin of the Brunists, which is a postmodern novel. When I saw that this book was coming out, I ordered The Origin of the Brunists and read it, pre-ordered this, and when it came in, I just never got around to reading it. By now, I've read The Origin of the Brunists so long ago, I would have to reread that to get the full value of this book. But that's book 23. Book 22, The Instructions by Adam Levin at 1,030 pages. This is the story of a Jewish boy at school. It is much beloved by Rowan at We Damaged We. I have not had a chance to read this yet. Book 21, The Incas by Danielle Peters, clocking in at 1,060 pages. I have read about the first 200, 300 pages of this book. It's a historical novel set entirely in the Inca era, and it just did not captivate me enough to continue on reading it. But as I remember, the characters just weren't very good. Book number 20, Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. I have read this. I think this is a fabulous book. It helps if you like tennis. I don't really care for tennis, so parts of this book were lost on me. And I said 1,030 pages. Number 19, Against the Day by, I'm trying to get Shining in the Lights, Against the Day by Thomas Pynchon, clocking in at 1,085 pages. I have read this. It is a strange book that includes, what are those called? The Hindenburg, you know what I'm talking about, the airships, like the Hindenburg. And very bizarre book. I did not love it. I liked it. Maybe one day I will reread it. Next, clocking in, this is book 18, Parallel Stories by Peter Nadas, translated from the Hungarian, 1,033 pages long. And this has a lot to do with a revolution in Hungary. It is very dense. I got through about 300 pages before saying, got distracted. Number 17, Divine Days by Leon Forrester. 1,035 pages. This is another one where I got about 300, 400 pages in. It is known as the Ulysses of Chicago. It is set in the south side of Chicago. I originally got this book when I wanted to move to Chicago. And I was trying to convince my wife not to move to Virginia, but to move to Chicago. And it's a very famous Chicago novel. It is unfortunately out of print. Most copies cost $50 or more. I was very lucky to find one at sub $20, and it's a very good edition. I do want to get back to reading this one day. Number 16, With Fire and Sword by Henryk Sienkiewicz. This is a book that I have read in the 90s. I'm trying not to get that light to shine. It is a historical novel about a battle in Poland. I don't remember a whole lot of this, other than it's very bloody. There is one character who has a great broadsword, and his great desire in life is to behead two enemies with one sweep of the sword. Book number 15, Tale of Genji by Murasaki Shikabu. This is a novel translated from the Japanese. It is 1,174 pages long. It has some nice illustrations in this copy, but I'm not sure if they're to this edition or the original. I'm assuming that they're just to this edition, but it seems like this is like one of the instruments that the characters use. I have not read this yet. I do plan to read it someday, but you know, time. Book number 14, Women and Men by Joseph McElroy, and that is 1,192 pages long. This is a very famous postmodernist novel. As I remember, it's set in New York City. It has one male main character and one female main character, and I think they live in the same apartment and never meet. Have to read it. Miss Mcintosh, My Darling by Marguerite Young. And that is 1,198 pages long. This is another book that I have not read yet. As I understand it, this is the story of a woman on a bus trip, and it is her memories of her nanny as she's going to visit her nanny on the bus, or going to visit her. Book number 12, Jerusalem by Alan Moore. 1,266 pages. This is a fabulous novel. It is much beloved by Noah. Everyone who reads it must converse. It's very hard to describe this novel, other than a large portion of this takes place in an afterlife, where a character has temporarily died as a child, and he's having this wild adventure through this bizarre afterworld that includes the devil and weird dimensions. I can highly recommend this. It is also very experimental. You will find a play in this. You will find a poem in this. You will find an invented language from James Joyce's sister. Yes, I think it's his sister, not his daughter, or maybe it was his daughter. I can't remember, but an invented language. Highly recommended. Number 11, The Demons by Hermita van Doder. And this is a very old book, out of print. If you look at my copy, you can see I have Mylar protecting the cover, but the cover is like disintegrating. This is a novel written in the 60s, I believe, translated from the German, about Vienna in the 30s. Again, one of those books that I have to get to one day. And this is Officially the beginning of the top 10 list. At number 10, A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, 1,349 pages. This is a book that I originally bought when it first came out. I have some reviews, paper reviews of the copy in here, out in the 90s. And again, this is a novel that I made about 300 pages in, maybe 400 pages in before throwing in the towel. It is something I want to return to someday. Apparently, the author is working on a sequel to this that is like 10 years overdue. But also one of the longest novels in the English language, at least at the time it was listed as one. But I have some that are longer. Number 9. Clocking in at 1,356 pages is The Dying Grass by William T. Vollmann. And this is a novel of the Nez Perce War. The Nez Perce were Indians on the East Coast, and they signed a treaty with the U.S. government to have a reservation where they could live out their lives. Turns out that reservation had a value supply of gold. So, of course, the Indians were kicked off their land and sent out west. And let's just say that the Indians were not pleased. And not only were they not pleased, they got screwed in the whole deal of this war. It's also a very interesting style the author used. It's very hard to describe, but he has sort of like stream of consciousness where a character is thinking about something and his thoughts break away and the author indents, goes down, thoughts break away, he indents again. And so it's a very fascinating style to read and a book I can highly, highly recommend. It's a slog. It is very distressing what happens to these Indians. And all I can say is that all of his characters are very gray. The American general in charge of this war is not a perfect person, but he's not a totally horrible person. And the same goes for the Indians. They do some things that are highly questionable. So still, pick this up. Book number 8, Hunger's Bride by Paul Anderson. I know almost nothing about this novel. I picked it up at Borders when Borders was going out of business, and they had this for like $5. And it is 1,358 pages long. It is about the very famous Mexican poet Sor Juana Ines de la Cruz, and it's a historical novel because she lived in the 1700s. Book number 7 is the book everyone will know. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, 1,399 pages in this edition. There are many other editions. Some are going to be a little bit longer. Some are going to be a little bit shorter. There is going to be a group read in March, and this will be my March of the Mammoth book. Book number 6, clocking in at 1,437 pages, is Freedom by William Safire. This is a historical novel about the Civil War. William Safire is a very well-known conservative, but I will excuse him for that. And I do want to get to reading this book one day because I'm very interested in the Civil War now that I've moved down to very close to the epicenter of a lot of Civil War battles. And he's very annoying because one of the things he says in an introduction somewhere is that he deliberately put one misspelling in this book. And that sort of torques me off a little bit because I can never spot a misspelling and I don't see the value of that, but there you go. Looking at number 5, Poor Fellow, My Country by Xavier Herbert. And that is 1,463 pages long. Now there's a problem with this book. I'm going to see if you can see what the problem is. Do you see the size of that print. Even with reading glasses, I'm going to have trouble reading this. It is just so freaking small, and it's long and it's heavy. Now, this is a novel about Australia. It is considered the main Australian novel by the boomer generation. You cannot get it in the United States. This would be a perfect book for Kindle. It is available for Kindle in Australia. Why cannot Americans get a decent edition of this book in the United States? U.S. citizens can be interested in Australia and reading books set in Australia. So come on, publishers, get a Kindle for us so I don't have to read this one. All right, number 4. Now, you're going to have to, excuse me, this is going to be a little taxing. Oh. Bottom's Dream by Arno Schmidt. And this book is 1,495 pages long. Now just look at this monster. Ah, it's heavy. It is physically the largest book I own. It might be the largest book you can buy. I'm gonna put it on my shoulder like a parrot or something. There you go. It's bigger than my head, and I have a big head. So this is translated from the German. It is a story about a man translating Edgar Allan Poe into German, and that German was translated into English. And if you look at the text, oh, this book is heavy. There are 3 columns on every page, and each sort of tells like a different story. And Arno Schmidt's style is that it almost looks like mathematics. It's a very bizarre style. I'm not sure this book is readable. I was listening to a podcast from a publisher who does a lot of translated works. He has this, he thought it was unreadable. I did see some other notes saying, if you want to read this book, do not try to read it cover to cover. Just pick it up, read a few pages, set it down, and try to read it again a bit later. So just look at that monster. It's like, I don't need to go to the gym. You could kill an old lady by hitting her over the head with this book. It's so big. My books are falling all over the place. All right. Clocking in at number 3. Anniversaries by Huey Johnson. And this is, again, translated from the German. It is set, the novel is a series of fictitious diary entries from a woman, a German woman, East German woman living in New York at the time of the 60s. And it clocks in at 1,668 pages long. And I read the first published, this book was originally published in a different English translation in 4 volumes. And as I understand it, the author wrote the first 3 volumes relatively close together and then spent like 10 years writing the 4th. I have read what would have been the first volume published in this translation. I do want to go back to it, but I'm not sure. Investing so much time in a long novel is difficult. And I was thinking, because this covers a whole year, I should just read 1 month at a time during that month. So it starts in August. The next August, I'm thinking, just read the August entries in August. And when you get to September, read the September entries. So after a year, I will have completed reading this book. Tentative plan. Book number 2. And the only author to have 2 books on this list is, again, Heinrich Sienkiewicz, The Deluge. This is published in 2 volumes. It is 1 novel. And you can see that second volume starts with chapter 65. I don't remember a lot of the story other than it continues what the story was with fire and sword. So if I want to reread that, I'm not sure if I have to reread with Fire and Sword or if I can just pick it up and read it. But there you go. And the longest book is The Man Without Qualities by Robert Musil at 1,774 pages long. And again, this is a novel that was originally published in different volumes. I read the first part when this first came out. And again, I have this habit of putting down large books and not finishing them. But I want to go back to this one day. There are some YouTube videos about how much people like this book. So something I need to pick up. So that are my biggest books. And I'm going to add a coda of books that I excluded because they are not really novels. Some people call them novels, but I don't think they are. These are works of Chinese literature translated into English. There are 4 of them, and they're each about 2,300, 2,500 pages long. So that's just an enormous quality. I have read the first volume of the one down below. What's one they called Journey to the West. It does not read like a novel. It's like episodes, like little vignettes. So that is my biggest books. And I'm going to probably say that my books are bigger than your books. I'm not going to tag anyone to do this video because I don't know who has big books or not. I know some people who have some big books, and come on and show me your big books and let us compare. So have a good day. Goodbye.